So welcome everybody back to another episode of the In Tune podcast with myself, Ashley Velvet Frost. And today I have one of my dear sisters, Sonja Müller, who's joining. I've invited her on really under the frequency of Delta, so under spirit or spirituality, your connection to soul, your energy, the inside you. She is a very intuitive and deeply wise woman who has her hands in multiple different modalities, and it just felt really, really natural to bring her on. We have known each other through our emotional release training and our journey and working together now also with emotional releases. And I've seen Sonja working, I've seen how she manages the energies of a space and within other people. And I can't wait to have her here to explain more about everything that is spirit, the big wise topic. So Sonja, welcome. How are you today?
I'm so good. I feel so honored to be on your podcast. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Of course.
I'm deeply grateful.
And yeah, I always start the podcast in the same way with this very vague question of who are you and how did you get here today?
Okay. I am an intuitive, or I mean, some people will call it witch. So I work with ancestral healing, tarot, use divination a lot, and kind of my mission, or made it kind of my mission, to put these tools out of their dusty, esoteric light where they are, because I think there are a lot of people who are using this as in a fraud way, try to pull people off. And especially like on social media, I reckon a lot that there were readings offered and stuff. So I still work with this since, well, actually my grandmother was already a tarot reader. She used regular pray cards, and kind of this was something that I grew up with a little bit.
Beautiful. Yeah, I mean, it's these kind of topics that even to say the phrase witch nowadays, people are very confused by sometimes, because it's like something you see in a movie, or there's a lot of misunderstandings about what it means to work with these kind of tools, and there's actually nothing really sinister about it. Yeah, I mean, did you do, like, since obviously you were exposed to it when you were younger, but were there any, like, how did your journey take you to really diving deeper into these kind of modalities? And we'll go into the detail of what they are later, but I also know, like, you've had a very rich life. You've lived in many places. You've also lived like in the normal world as well. So yeah, maybe there's anything else you want to add about this side of you as well, which is a very exciting side.
Well, it started pretty easy, like in my home we used smudging and stuff for to get energy out. And later on I discovered, or I was traveling a lot, actually. I was traveling the world, and that was what I wanted to do in my 20s. So I became a flight attendant, and besides of working in the travel industry, I also tried to live abroad, to go on long holiday trips. And actually, bit by bit, I met people, the right people at the right time, and their qualities and their knowledge kind of added up to mine. And I always thought, like, I have to look outside for this knowledge. I have to go to Japan to learn Reiki like the right way. I have to go to Mexico to learn about shamanism and about ancient Mayan cultures and the rituals and the plants that they use. And after traveling like a lot and discovering a lot of knowledge and meeting a lot of people, After like 15 years or so, I came home and I found out that all these rituals of ancient cultures and or how do you say, indigenous cultures, that they're not so far away from the culture that I come from, that they're not so far away from the Celtic Bayouvar origins, the stories that we tell, the plants that we use for smudging. Like they are pretty much substitutes for everything all around the world. Like you can discover one plant in Madagascar, which is very special there, and they use it for a particular purpose. And then you find its cousin or sibling in the forest of your hometown, and you'll be surprised because people take it for the same purpose actually, but you never really made the connection to it.
Yeah, I love that, because there's always this I want to call it like healing spiritual stereotype that you must like leave really far away to these exotic lands to have these experiences for healing that actually you can also do in your own home or in your own room if you are actually connected to the land that you live on, which is all the same. It's just like geographically different distances away. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different things in here that I'm really curious about. I'm going to start, let's keep with like the herbs and the plants, because of this is something that a lot of us live in cities. A lot of us are relying on Western medicine when things go wrong. So yeah, I mean, if somebody's kind of interested in going down more of like the connecting with herbs and plants, and how can somebody even start with that?
I mean, I think that most people who start with herbal medicine have already tried Western medicine. So there must be like a symptom or anything. I can tell the story how I started. Well, I got diagnosed with, they told me that I had like a cyst in my left ovary.
Yeah.
So I had to go to the hospital to get it checked. And at the hospital, they told me like the size of the cyst is already like 4 to 6 centimeters. So it's like an orange size, approximately, more or less like an orange. And I had to get it removed. So they took some blood tests, and they were kind of pushing me into the direction to get the surgery done in 2 or 3 weeks. So I was kind of stressed out from the situation, and I walked out of this hospital and I sat on the steps, and all I wanted to do at this moment was to smoke. So I went for the next shop, for the tobacco shop. And I went in, I bought some cigarettes, and I still had, from the blood testing, I had like the scotch on my arm.
Cotton buds, yeah.
Yeah. And the guy asked me like, what happened to you? And I was not prepared to answer this. I was really in my head. I was not prepared to answer this question. And so everything like flooded out of me. Like, I have this cyst in my ovary, and they told me that I had to get it removed. And I feel so unstable in my femininity, because I am scared that I have cancer, and all this stuff came out. And he just looked at me and he was like, okay, great, because I'm a shaman. And I was like, what? And behind this guy, there were all these cigarette boxes, and I'm like, are you really? And then I turned around, and actually it felt like as if the reality shifted in the store, because like from the cigarette selling point, like I turned around and there were just crystals and smudge and stuff in his shop, and I was so surprised. And
I love that.
Yeah,
it's like the Matrix, like something just like shifted a bit and you saw the actual reality.
Yeah, And he was like, so that's not a problem. And he was pulling out this huge book about herbs from the Amazon. He actually was from Peru. So he was pulling out this book and recommending me like 3 or 4 herbs that grow actually at the Amazon, but also have like similar or cousins here in Europe. And so I was looking up these plants, and I'm going to make the rest of the story short. So I was wearing the crystals that he recommended, and I was doing like washings with the herbs that he recommended. And at the end, when I got the surgery done, because I still believe in Western medicine and that it's important to rely on it when there are difficult things in your body. And as I woke up from the surgery, the doctor actually came over and said like, wow, we didn't find the cyst anymore, it was gone, but we found endometriosis in your body and we removed that. And I was like, okay. So actually the cyst brought me to the endometriosis diagnosis, which I could then work on and work with other people on, and brought me also to herbal healing with plants and shamanism, which is pretty amazing for a cyst, what it can do.
Safe to say, did it assist you?
Yes. Such an assist.
I promise that's the only dad joke I'll do for the episode. Actually, I can't promise that. You know me. Like, wow. I mean, that's beautiful, because also I know that womb work and this kind of diagnosis, I know also has been a massive part of your own journey as well. But like, let's go into that topic, because that's also linked with the ancestral healing and everything. Like, let's go. I mean, I should probably also preface, like, not all of you are watching on the video, but Sonja's got a beautiful baby bump going on. I don't know, how many months are you now? 6 months?
It's here.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Vibrant and glowing, and yeah. So let's go into this topic, because this links also with like emotional release, and links with all of it. So
definitely, that's actually how I came to emotional release.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm so grateful because we met. This is all like so beautiful circumstances. So I got diagnosed with endometriosis, and I wanted to see some specialists. And endometriosis is a sickness that is very, like, it has so many different faces and is different for every woman. And I went to a specialist, and I was already like a patient for depression at that time, and he related this a lot, like my cycle and depression and stuff. And he diagnosed me. Well, the thing that he actually said, he said literally that I was 28 or 29 at the time, and he literally said to me, I should get going to get pregnant soon, because I might not be able to conceive in my 30s anymore. That was his expert opinion on it. And I thought like, well, let's look into this, because it's really, well, it's kind of curious, is that in my motherly ancestral line, all of the women the 4 women that I know of, all dealt with infertility, and I'm actually an in vitro child. So my mother also went through
IVF.
Hormonal therapy and IVF. And I thought like, okay, maybe I have to go this way too then. But it was not so necessary back then, because I hadn't had like the wish to become a mother yet. So I just let this settle, and a few years later, when I discovered, or when I met David, and when I booked a course for to become an emotional releaser, and discovered this amazing tool that David actually gave us with emotional release, with accessing our subconscious through the body, I discovered that in almost all of my sessions, there were ancestors showing up. And I always really enjoyed working with them. And then I had clients who also had the same history like me, who had endometriosis, and who had mothers, grandmothers, great-grandmothers who suffered from infertility. And I was like, okay, let's look into this. And actually what I found out is that most of these women have ancestors. I mean, like, let's talk for a second what happens with the uterus. So the uterus is our first home, let's say, on this earth. And what the endometrium,
yeah,
thank you, so, is actually the interior of the uterus. And when the interior is found in different places in your body where it doesn't belong, it means like it left your home. So the connection that I made back then was that most of these women, or actually all that I worked with, had grandmothers or great-grandmothers who left their home country. So there's like
displacement.
Yeah, displacement of home, of feeling at home somewhere else. And I thought like, wow, that's like, that makes sense in kind of a way to take like all the interior that you have and displace it somewhere else. Somewhere where it's not your home. And this is also causing a lot of trauma in the past generations, and they have not had the tools nor the knowledge to work themselves through it. So what they did, like, they passed it on to the next generation. And well, this is one part of the story. And the other part is that most likely there was a situation in the mother, grandmother, or great-grandmother's life where they found it unsafe or not safe with the partner, with the place, with the times to have a baby. But they found themselves pregnant. And yeah, so this information is also stored in the body of the baby or of the child then, and gets transported, like this information of you shouldn't continue our line, our genetical line. And this was really like a game changer when I found out that there's a lot of unrelived sadness from the ancestors, and also of course this displayed always in the lives of the clients, because sometimes they were in relationships where they actually had the wish to build a family, but not with this partner in particular. Or you name it.
Wow, I mean, this like deeply touches my heart, because if you think back, because we're both Northern European, like 2 generations back, there's war trauma coming through, like intense. I think my grandmother was only like 6 or something when she got sent out to the countryside to not get bombed from in the cities in the UK. And likewise, I mean, you're part German as well, so it's like this is deeply carried within ourselves. And it's I mean, emotional release also just like the way that this can then be like, these patterns can be witnessed and seen, and purely by witnessing, also the healing begins with this. So sometimes even just becoming aware of the ancestral pattern that's playing out is half of the process in itself. Yeah. Beautiful.
And I mean, like, this is one part, like the ancestral part is one part, and you feel like when something is belonging to you, or when it's belonging, or when it's passed on from former generations.
That's actually sorry, go. Yeah.
No, sorry.
It's a super simple question. Like, I remember if you're in a process, and then sometimes David would just be like, is this yours or someone else's? And just asking yourself that question, it sounds like it's so simple, like you wouldn't be able to tell that. You're like, oh, actually, no, this does not feel like my baggage. This is not mine. Like, oh, whose is it? Is it male or female? Like, how far back does it go? And then often your intuition just pops in the right number to your head. Like, how many generations back is this? Like, oh, for some reason 3 is coming to mind. It's like, well, there you go. It's something from that point. Yeah, the shamanistic aspect of ancestral healing is, yeah, I'm such a fan of it. Like, it brings so much insight into ourselves and stuff.
Me too. I really love to do this work, and I really love to work with ancestors, because in family systems, what we sometimes forget, like, the soul doesn't know any conflict, so there's always just love. And I think, well, I always feel honored when people like come to me and want to do this work, because the space holding that it requires to welcome everyone from their ancestral line and make them actually feel welcome is not so easy, because there are a lot of well, I mean, you don't know who's coming, so it could be Charles Mason himself, but you still have to be like completely neutral to that, and still have to be welcoming for this person to show up, so that the client can make a peaceful, like a peaceful connection with this family member or with this part of themselves.
Yeah, beautiful. And how did this then link to you now being pregnant and having broken this ancestral pattern of infertility naturally?
Well, yeah, that was also like a long story, because I thought for a while that people who come to me, like women who come to me with their infertility problems, like I can get them pregnant, but I cannot do it for myself. You know what I mean? And it's not like, I mean, of course, it's not me to get them pregnant, but like sooner or later, during most client or most processes where I accompanied people, they got pregnant after a while, even if it was not ancestral or just like another thing in their body. So I wondered why this didn't work out for me, and there were different things. Okay, first of all, like, I did not allow myself to be a mother, but like, if you look close to it, every woman and every man has motherly aspect. You sometimes take care of a sibling, you take care of a friend. That's also like being in the role of the mother. So I looked into my life and I looked like, okay, where did I show up as this archetype already? And where am I this? And how am I in this role? Do I feel like I can own it or not? Can I allow myself to be a mother? And then, like, this wish formed. I wanted to start a family, and I saw all the joy that children bring to my friends and in my family circle. And I was so touched by, I always felt like it's an honor that a soul comes to you and wants you as a parent. It's something incredible. It even, I could cry if I think about it right now. And I think it's an honor to serve, to bring up this life here on earth.
So beautiful.
I
know, it's like on the video we're both just like, this is fine.
It's fine. I'm okay.
I'm okay. The baby isn't even here yet. Okay, so as always, like I love to ask this question then about these amazing modalities that we talk about. If someone's curious about, maybe there's like they're like, hold on, I also have things running in my family, maybe like me, my sister, my mother, my auntie, my grandmother all have this thing, and then people just get told that when diseases or occurrences or patterns get passed on, that it's a genetic thing that you can't avoid. So if someone's maybe listening to this and they're like, oh, okay, maybe there are some patterns that I can acknowledge. What's a good way to kind of start digging into these kind of things?
Well, it can be genetic, of course. And I think that a good way to start would be already to start with, like, to put up a system for your family, to start with you, and then start with your parents, with their siblings, and just put it all on paper.
Like a family tree.
Like a family tree.
Yeah.
And that's so much easier for the brain to see the connections being made. And also, if you don't know anybody, if you, I don't know the siblings of your great grandmother or something, that's not a problem. Like, as soon as you write down those names, you're gonna dream about these people. There will be a connection made somehow to your family system. And it's also like a really good support system in this way. And especially if there are sicknesses or same stories running through families, like it's super helpful to note where those lines run.
Yeah.
And to know like who's kind of reliving a similar story as you, or who already set the course for your story.
Yeah. I remember this kind of work was actually my first step into the spiritual world, was like family constellation work of mapping out your family. And I do remember this feeling of like a little bit of helplessness of like, oh, well, okay, there's all these patterns running and I can see it, but like, how do I clear from it, or like step out of the repeating thing that's going on generation to generation? So like, how can people start to do that in a way?
To step out?
Yeah, to stop the pattern. Yeah. It's like, basically, how can people heal?
Okay, let's first of all acknowledge where or how this pattern runs and what fuels it. And then, I mean, it's your life. It's not like you have to repeat the life of somebody else. So you can always take like a different choice for yourself. You can always take a different step for yourself. And that's the empowerment here, because all your ancestors are here to help you. They don't want you to repeat their lives. They're here to applaud you to step out of these patterns. And for example, if we see this a lot with physical abuse in families, I think, like generations ago, it was okay to like hit children, right? Yeah. And then after one generation, after two generations, even more people stepped out because they saw like, this is not okay. This is not how I want to raise my kids. And that's already a cycle breaking. Like, if you do things differently, if you see what's going on, if you are reflective, you can always step out of the patterns. And it's not, I mean, it's sometimes difficult to step out of these. And But I think that everyone of your family stands aside and is happy for you to, or is happy that you do the job that they couldn't do, that they haven't had the capacity, time, or circumstances to fulfill.
Yeah. Yeah, you'd hope that on like a deep level that motivation is there. I remember like sometimes when you're still faced like with people who are alive in your family, say your parents, when you are doing things that are stepping out of those patterns, that's like stepping out of the norm of the family system, that's super triggering for them also. So it can be like deep down, you know, that like their soul is happy, but like their conscious ego mind is like, why are you doing things this way? This is weird. This is different. This is not how we do it. This is not how society does it. Like, why are you choosing this life path, etc., etc. I know this from firsthand experience. Like, never, they're like, we're just saying this with love. Like, we're worried, or like, this is not normal. Or this is not like a normal path to go. And it's, yeah, I noticed that as well with a lot of people who are breaking these patterns and the chains of what's been going on in their family.
I mean, it was for you the same, right? You moved out of the UK.
Mm-hmm.
You took your own, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I left the country, left my comfortable corporate job, have embarked on like plant medicine and lots of like, yeah, things that are very, as you say, esoteric and slightly abstract to the mind, which is that you're going into the different realms, not just this like 3D world that we live in that's like buildings and work and structures and schedule, and going into more chaos sometimes. And that can seem also very destabilizing for people who are used to having a lot of structure and control, but then not much, I'd say like inner light or inner freedom. So yeah, it's, yeah, sometimes I feel like a walking mirror for people, walking trigger. It's fun. It's a full-time job.
That's beautiful, because this is actually a talent. Not everybody can trigger people.
Yeah,
so
I could do a whole episode on that.
That's really, that's a gift.
Yeah, thank you. I had another, well, there's lots of things we haven't touched on. I enjoy that we just took a tangent onto the womb healing, because I completely like forgot about that huge aspect of, yeah, your journey and like how important it is. I do want to talk about smudging at some point, because yeah, this is, in more recent years, people were talking about like, yeah, like I did this. Like I remember I went to a yoga class, and during the shavasana at the end, they're walking around with a palo santo, and I'm like, what is this delightful smell, and how can I get more of this in my life? And I was like, I found it. I also found like sage, and you're like, I'm smudging, but I don't really know what I'm doing. And it's just, there is like history and context to it, but also maybe some people are using it just because it's like something they saw on Instagram. So it's like, what is it? And yeah, what's the best way, or like, yeah, other ways you can also go into it in more depth? Because I've seen you smudge. You've smudged also our like rooms when we're doing event spaces, and that there's definitely something to it more than just a nice smell. So
yeah, definitely. And I mean, I love Palo Santo and white sage, and people can never go wrong with these because they are safe to use everywhere. There are some herbs that I would not recommend to use on people, or to use on pregnant women. And there are, well, let's start with this. Like, smudging is used in almost all cultures. And that means already something, right? The church is still using smudge to get people into this connection with themselves, so with the divine. And like, smudges sometimes don't just smell good, they are there to relieve things. So for example, to start with smudging, I would always recommend, of course, using Palo Santo and white sage. On the Palo Santo, we have to say like that's the Palo Santo tree, is already endangered, so use it wisely, not every day. And most people have their own techniques. So if you want to smudge a body, for example, it's pretty good to start at the top of the head. You just like follow the smudge. If it goes in any direction, left or right, that's the side where you continue. And then you smudge the side where the smudge is taking you, and you just follow that. And also it's important like to smudge the hand and the feet chakra, or the sole of the feet, because like there are most important chakras in there that get us into touch with the earth and with other people. And if you start with the room, I would always recommend you to start at the entrance door. And never forget the mirrors. And yes, let also like the smudge take you to some place. And Palo Santo and white sage is actually pretty much smoothing out the energies, but it's not so much clearing. If you want something very clearing, I would recommend to use juniper, or what else is very clearing? I'm gonna have a look. Yeah, you can use almost all copal forms and myrrh. Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like what Jesus got gifted.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gold, frankincense, and myrrh.
And frankincense is amazing.
One of my
yeah,
favorite.
That's pushing your spirit like super high.
Perfect. Yeah, I mean, I know that smudging you can have in like forms of sticks. It can also come in forms like, have you got one of them near you? The little pots that you can burn things in, the gold things. I don't know what if they have a special name or anything. Oh, beautiful.
I have my stacky and my fan. Yeah, I usually smudge with real herbs. So I take lemongrass or any kind of herb, and I put like the charcoal. I have the fast burning charcoal. Yep. And I place it, I get some sand in there and a little pot. And I place the charcoal in the center and I light it up until it gets white. I never do this inside of the house. I always do it outside because this is saltpeter and the smell is not very healthy for humans, and neither for animals or anything. And as soon as the charcoal turns white, I use like real things, like this is red sandalwood, for example. And this is, I think this is a mix of local trees that I made. You can also collect them all in nature.
Yeah, so and then you just collect from your local environment and then dry them, essentially.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's given me so much inspiration, also just to go around like to the forests here and then even things by the seaside. I can imagine like trees as well. You mentioned that there's some that you definitely would not use around like people or for especially pregnant women. Are there any that come to mind also so that people know?
Yeah, I would not use actually, well, the German name is Eisenkraut. It's iron root.
Is that like St. John's wort? No.
No, St. John's wort is actually good for people to lift up the mood.
Yeah, the iron root would be like the.
Yeah,
I can write down on the description of those.
Yeah, and I wouldn't use rue, like the wine rue on pregnant women, because this can lead to contractions. Contractions, thank you. What did I say?
Contraceptions. Like that already failed if they're pregnant.
Well, it's gonna be extra strong, you know. And well, what else wouldn't I use?
I can also add these onto the description at the bottom if any more come to me.
I mean, yeah, there are some things that are better for rooms than for people, actually.
Yeah. I mean, I love what you say about that every culture is using this, because it isn't just hippies, it isn't just people in South America, it's like even the Catholic Church is using it. It's like, it's really such a grounding smell, and really, you know, that it's almost like brings you into ceremony mode or something, that like it feels very sacred. It's like this, it's not even fire, it's like smoke, like this real, yeah, beautiful. Yeah.
And also you burn stuff.
Yeah, in a pyromaniac, so super happy. So
satisfying.
Beautiful. Okay, so the other thing I want to talk about, because this is the one that has the worst rep, I think, amongst modern society, and this is tarot.
Yeah.
So, maybe you can just say a little bit about what tarot is first before we go to it, because some people might not be sure exactly what it is.
So tarot is actually like a method of self-reflection, and pictures are used and colors are used to help the mind to reflect. It's like how do you call this test that they use in psychology with the
ink blot.
The ink test. How do you call it again? They have a specific name.
Yeah.
Ink blot. Okay.
Blot. Yeah, it's like the mirrored blot inks things. Yeah.
Yeah. And what you interpret in them, or what people interpret in them, is very individual, and you have to know the language of symbols very much to kind of translate it to people sometimes, because of course, like if I show you a spider, like you probably will have like a negative association with the spider, but in some tarot decks there are spiders, and they're mostly on cards that represent crafting, that represent like putting your skills, displaying your skills, and just waiting for the client or the bait to come. And yeah, I mean, tarot is pretty cool for yourself, for your own interpretation, and it trains your intuition like really well.
Yeah. So people can actually use tarot for themselves, not just relying on going on a reading.
No, I mean, I would recommend to go on readings because, for example, I learned from really bad tarot readers and really bad hand readers. And but it's helped me so much to divide for myself what is good or what is not. Yeah. But of course, you don't have to walk that way. And I mean, you feel the energy immediately. Like a good tarot reader will not tell you when you gonna get kids, or will not tell you when you're gonna die, or stuff like this. It's always like about the moment, and it's always about the outcome that probably comes when you continue this behavior, or when you continue this way until a certain point in your life.
Yeah. I mean, I received a reading of you when we were in Portugal, and it was beyond spooky, and beyond the interlink to like processes that were happening that day, the day before. You even pulled a card with my spirit animal on. Like, yeah, so it's a beautiful, like you say, modality and method to just get guidance, insight and guidance for the present moment. It's like, it isn't anything supernatural or spooky. It is just asking for insights, I think. Yeah. And when you see people who are kind of offering these, or let's say pushing them, because you can always offer to do reading for somebody, because I think you can always be connected to them, even if you have only just met. But when people are like really pushing these kind of things, how does that feel for you when you see this happening?
You mean when they push me to give a reading, or?
No, so when you see other people like reaching out, being like, hey, let me read you, or this, like, so that's happening a lot, I notice, on social media in particular. And I am a believer in it, but even then I'm a bit like, skeptical of like their intentions or the standard of what's being offered in that sense.
Yeah, me too. And well, I'm always curious about this because I don't know how they deal with it energy-wise, but I can max read 2 people a day. And there has to be a time amount in between to have the energy, because like you always connect with the energy of this person that you're reading, and you are in service to them. And of course, to translate it in, or to translate the pictures, the numbers on the cards in a way that they feel aligned to, is some kind of energy work. And I don't know how people who always, I mean, I feel it's a scam when somebody's offering their tarot readings all the time. And I think that the right people will come to you anyway, that the right people will trust you and know you with what you do. And I just wait for them to come, mostly, to ask for readings.
Yeah.
And then I still decide, like, do I want to give it or not?
Yeah. So it's safe to say that if somebody's listening and resonates with you, they could always reach out to see if you would like a reading.
Of course.
Yeah, well, I'll be adding your thing in the bio anyway. And we've talked a little bit about symbolism, and I think I want to go into this a little bit more because I think you can talk about this for a long time. I mean, this is a big topic. Symbolism, archetypes, these kind of ideas that follow through in the collective unconscious. It's like the whole concept even of like, if you think of a warrior, we're all thinking of the same kind of energy. If you're thinking of a gold coin, like it all has these different things that come up that all resonate with us. So can you talk a little bit more about what symbolism means for you, or just like in this general topic as well?
Okay, so this is really a huge topic, and well, symbolism basically splits into symbolism that we experience on a daily basis. Like, for example, your spirit animal sometimes shows up and it reminds you of a certain thing. And then we got the subconscious symbolism, which is imprinted by famous psychologists, for example, Freud or Jung. Thank you. I had to look at the book.
I'm a big
fan. Yeah, and there's always like a spiritual, like a meaning that comes delivered from generations, from indigenous
like heritage.
Heritage. Thank you. And there's also like the psychological side too. So depending on where you want to go or how you want to perceive it, always has like more than one meaning. And then it comes, of course, like with your personal meaning is mostly important about symbolism. So if you decide that seeing bees on New Year's Eve, for example, is not that special, that's like your thing. But for another person, this could be like very special. Like, why are there bees in my garden when it's New Year's Eve? Like, that's crazy in January.
And how could somebody go about like identifying these kind of symbolisms in their life?
Just be open for it. I think there's a lot of this modern number symbolism, like seeing the 1111 and
I literally wrote about last night.
So what does it mean for you actually when you see like a particular, I think you posted about this yesterday, 21.
I literally did, about synchronicity. So it's hilarious that we're talking about it. Because I'm always very hyper aware that even also when I'm doing like dream analysis, that I never look up like, what does this symbol mean? Because it's like oftentimes for somebody else to explain my subconscious to me doesn't resonate. The only times I've ever done it is when I've had like very specific gods come up in my dream. Then I'm like, okay, why is Anubis showing up in my dream? Like, because it was happening like in multiple forms, multiple dreams. So from that element, I did feel called to look up the meaning. But like if I see like a horse or there's water, like I've learned a lot from dream analysis that your own interpretation, your own first instinct is the one that is right.
Yeah.
So when I see lots of things going on, like 1111 means this, or 2020 means this, or 1919 means this, I always take it with a pinch of salt of like, I understand there's angel numbers, but also my own feeling for it. So in particular, because I don't just get 1111, I probably get equal numbers like 5 times a day. For me, it often means like, I wrote this thing of like, because they're mirroring each other. So I often am like, they're mirroring each other and mirroring for me. So it's a moment that if I see it, I pause and I feel into what's going on right now. Am I on the right track? Is there something that I'm not seeing right now? Or is there something that's going well? Like if I was having a particular thought, or I'm working on a particular thing at that moment, I look at my phone and it's that time and I'm like, okay. It's either like a point of alignment for me or a point of reflection.
Nice. Yeah, that's like a perfect reminder.
Exactly. So I never use it as like and it's also really nice because I have a lot of like, sometimes even like my friends or partners, when that's also like a moment to think of somebody, if you catch your phone and then you see it and then you could be like, oh, 1919. And then it's like a lovely way of like sending a little connection message as well. But because for me, to be honest, the number pattern I always get is 1, 2, 3, 4.
1,
12,
2, 3,
12,
4.
34.
Like evolving.
Yeah, like, and sometimes it'll either be like, yeah, 2, 3, 4, or like, I mean, I'm not often awake at 2 a.m., but like, it's always around 12:34 that I get that every day. And yes, you could say it's like your body clock and you're used to that time, but obviously we also have summer daylight saving time. So for half the year, it's a different time than the other half. So it's also not to do with the light and things like this. So yeah, and sometimes you just get numbers coming up. Like I had like hilariously the number 69 following me for like weeks, like everywhere. It was following me in like my account number of something and on street numbers and on telephone numbers. I was just like, I know that we associate that in society with something else, but like, what's going on here? So,
well,
yeah, it's just a moment for like introspection of like, why is this number pattern showing? And yeah, like you say, it's just creating your own relationship to what it means for you. Like this is your life, your soul, your spirit. No one should or can tell you how you should interpret it. And yeah, so that's how it lands for me, at least.
So you're always your own guide, like in every way. And that's amazing. I also have these numbers that remind me of people. Or for example, my boyfriend and I, we got a number. So his number is 13 and mine is 31. And I often come across like looking at my phone at 1331, or coming across at a car that has like this number on this, and it always reminds me of like, this is the moment, like, of course I think of him more often, but this is the moment when I'm like, okay, that's a nice sign.
I love that, actually. I had weirdly somebody else had that number combination. They in the last like I think they traveled home on like the 13th of December and came back on the 31st, and it was like both their numbers and things. So it's really beautiful that it's like around for people, especially because 13 isn't always, well, we talked about this on the retreat actually, about the number 13, right?
Yeah.
Like Friday the 13th, our retreat started on that day, and in society that's normally the bad luck day, but this is actually completely twisted from the source. Maybe you can tell us about it. Yeah, was it from pagan heritage, or it was something about, yeah, I can't remember. You were telling me about this, so
Did I?
I think so. I think it was more like it was around like a witch's day, or day around yeah, like a celebratory day around like women and femininity. And then as the patriarchal system got more and more it became almost like a bad luck day, because it was actually the day that all the women and their energy and power was like heightened. And
Yeah.
they're just like, no, bad luck. The demons and the witches are out of the day. It's an unlucky day now, like, as usual.
13 is like a very powerful number, I think, also in tarot, which is pretty interesting. The 13, I don't know if I can find it right here.
I love it. You split the deck and it was like the first card.
Yeah, but actually this means transformation. Like it's a very transformative card.
It adds up to my lucky number.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's 4.
Oh, that's also, I mean.
Well, while you're looking for this, I also just want to thank you for having gone in depth on all of these. Ooh, which one is it? Death.
And that's pretty funny that this card comes up when you say it's your lucky number, because you're Scorpio, as far as I know. And Scorpio is associated actually with this card.
Yeah, I feel that.
Yeah.
I mean, as a Scorpio, I already feel like a dark mystical witch anyway, who's like
beautiful,
harboring all this like dark energy, but in like a sometimes productive way in life. So yeah, I feel that, I know you're going on maternity leave, but I do think if anybody listens to this and wants to connect with you, I will add like your Instagram or see your emotional release work, but that they can just reach you for any questions about these kind of topics, or if they're curious about diving into this more. Yeah, is there anything else that's like alive for you that feels like it wants to be shared before we close off?
Yeah. I enjoyed so much talking to you. Like, you're a bliss. I love you, Ashley.
So much love for you too. Well then, I want to thank you for diving us deeper into the delta frequency of In Tune. And for those of you who are listening, thank you again. And we'll see you on the next episode. Thank you, Sonja.
Thank you.